So welcome everybody. For those of you who do not know me, I'm Rachel Justice and one of the co-leaders of the Woman to Woman Gynecologic Cancer Support Program. And we are very thrilled to have you here for this really important topic about hydration. It was August right now, and although we have a slightly cooler day today, we've had such a really brutal heat wave recently, and I think this is something that everybody can relate to, wherever you are at in your cancer experience, or whether you are a staff member or a caregiver or just stumbled upon this. So we're thrilled that you are attending live and watching virtually. So we have a wonderful speaker. Some of you might have heard some of her past sessions, but we are so thrilled that Anika Jagasia is with us once again. She's a graduate student. She will do her own introduction and tell you where she is at right now and what she's doing. But for those of you who have attended her presentations before, they are interesting and informative, and they're great graphics. And I'm really looking forward to learning from you, Anika, for the next hour. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction, Rachel. Hi, everyone. My name is Anika. Thank you for joining me today on this session about hydration. I'm super excited about this. I'm a recent graduate from Columbia who will be starting my master's in nutrition this fall. So I'm very interested in learning more about hydration and also how it affects our health. So this was super exciting for me to talk about today. So today's topics are going to be covering the effect of hydration on our overall health, as well as the challenges that are posed by the summer heat. We'll go over practical tips to stay hydrated, some facts and myths, a Q&A session, and yeah. While I was researching for this presentation, I came across a few facts that I thought would be very important to share with you guys. The first one being how much our body needs water and the composition of our body weight in water. So it was super surprising to me to learn that about 75% of an infant's body weight is composed of water. And then even through adulthood, we still are majority water, which is 55%. And that's super essential for our own cellular homeostasis and life. And in the United States, it's also estimated that about 22% of water comes from our food intake, which is pretty relieving to hear, and especially know that we don't have to be so conscientious about staying hydrated, because oftentimes we're getting our hydration through our food, whether we know it or not. And also, water is super important with all of our cellular functions, especially, for example, when it comes to headaches that are due to dehydration. Ingestion of water can provide sudden relief within 30 minutes to 3 hours. And I thought this statistic was really powerful because it shows that when we're mindful about our hydration and the possibility of our bodies being dehydrated, water can really help, even if we don't think it will. And a couple of myths that I also thought would be interesting to bring up to you guys are the 8 glasses a day myth. That one I've been hearing my whole life. Just drinking 8 glasses a day will always, keep you hydrated. And I thought it was super interesting to read about this rule that's not very applicable to a lot of individuals, yet people always think it is. And it's super interesting to it was interesting to learn about the recommended water intake, because it's very individualized, and there's no baseline that we can really measure our own water intake to. There were a couple other myths that I was interested in learning more about. One of them being that water and hydration can help flush out toxins from the skin, and also give an anti-aging complexion or glowing skin. I feel like those two myths have been pretty recent that I've been hearing of. And it was interesting to read about how hydration can maintain skin skin elasticity, but it does not really have a role in like the anti-aging process and also our like quote glowing complexion that people are kind of seeing on social media. That was very interesting. And then even like furthermore about skin, there was a statistic I found that said that our skin contains approximately 30% of water, which contributes to the plumpness, elasticity, and resilience. So it's interesting to see how social media sometimes can exaggerate certain statistics where, yes, our skin is made up of water, and hydration can help our skin, but it doesn't necessarily mean that being super hydrated will contribute to like anti-aging effects. And going over why hydration matters. Our bodies are obviously, as we said, made up of about 60% water. So that means that every cell, tissue, and organ relies on water to function properly. And hydration regulates our body temperature, cellular activities. It aids in our digestion. It helps our kidneys, and even it helps boost our physical and cognitive performance. And so when it comes to like treatment and like cancer patients, maintaining hydration can be really helpful for people in terms of managing like symptoms and also improving like overall well-being. So these are the 3 points that I thought would be great to highlight, as like hydration does play a critical role in managing like side effects of treatment, such as like chemotherapy and radiation. I think the biggest helpful part of hydration is that it helps manage symptoms such as like nausea and vomiting and diarrhea. All of those symptoms can actually increase the risk of dehydration. So that kind of shows why like adequate, proper hydration is really important to like support our cellular functions, our organs, our like kidney functions, and even like help flush out byproducts in medications that are being consumed. So yeah, staying hydrated can really enhance the efficacy of treatments, and even help reduce fatigue, all of which contribute to like maintaining energy levels. And moving on to how hydration is associated with our cognitive and physical performance. This was really interesting to learn, in my opinion, because I didn't really know that the linkage between like how hydrated we are can really affect our like our cognitive ability throughout the day and also our fatigue. It was super interesting to learn that when we are dehydrated, it can lead to like increased fatigue and altered thermoregulatory capabilities. So we can't really regulate our body temperature as easily. And also just increase all of the effort to do daily activities that we otherwise wouldn't need to expend so much effort on if we were hydrated. I also thought it would be really important to go over the role of the kidneys when it comes to staying hydrated. I wasn't really aware prior to this research about how important the kidneys are for like regulating our fluid balance and also just partaking in the entire process of staying hydrated. I wanted to point out a couple key facts, such as the kidneys, their role in regulating the water balance and blood pressure, because our kidneys basically work by filtering the waste from our blood and removing it through the urine. And so that whole process requires a lot of water to function properly. And it's also interesting to know that sometimes our kidneys can get overwhelmed if we do drink too much water. So that's why it's important to just stay a little like aware of how much water we're consuming, because if we consume too much water, sometimes that can raise our blood sodium levels, which can affect our kidneys. So it's important to like have a just check in with our bodies about our water intake throughout the day, and just know that it can be like very good, and also there could be side effects from drinking too much water. I also wanted to point out a part about our the role of hydration in our health and say that proper hydration is not just about daily function. It's actually very important for our just taking care of our future health, and it's kind of a preventative measure too. So studies have shown that adequate water intake has been shown to reduce certain health conditions such as kidney stones, which is nice to hear. And there's also a lot of blurry evidence when it comes to associations between some health complications or chronic diseases with water intake. But the message that I got was that water does have an impact sometimes that can be beneficial, such as for preventing kidney stones. And there's a lot of stuff that has not yet been totally confirmed yet, but there are links to, such as the link between having a good proper hydration and reduced risk of constipation or even asthma, among other types of health struggles. So this summer it's been really hot, and there's been a lot of challenges with staying hydrated. I hope everyone has found that to be a little more manageable. And as temperatures, as everybody knows, as temperatures have been rising throughout the summer, everyone's risk for being dehydrated does really increase significantly. So the heat really does cause us to sweat more, and obviously sweating leads to a loss of fluids and electrolytes. And sometimes for symptoms such as nausea that may come from treatments, that can be exacerbated by just dehydration feelings too, and headaches. And so that's why it's super important to be mindful about staying hydrated, because there are symptoms that can be managed, such as nausea symptoms or even headache symptoms, just by simple reminder on your phone to drink some water, or just check-ins throughout the day. Some signs of dehydration that are important to always keep in mind are dry mouth and skin, dark colored urine, dizziness and confusion, and rapid heart rate and breathing. So these are symptoms that can often arise from dehydration, and they can also come into play with symptoms from treatments that can feel worse, and oftentimes it could be from a combo of being dehydrated in the summer while experiencing or managing symptoms from certain treatments. And one thing that I do to help prevent myself from being dehydrated is that I carry a water bottle around with hourly markings. I've found those types of water bottles to be super helpful. They're a great check-in, and also it just helps me keep track of my own hydration. I carry that around all the time, and I found that to be super great. And yeah, speaking of water intake recommendations, I think one of the biggest takeaways that I got from researching this topic was that giving out a water intake recommendation is super hard when it comes to creating a guideline, because so many individuals they all have individual needs. And I think that's really important to keep in mind, because at the end of the day, it's all about getting to know your own body and your own self. So sometimes maybe those water bottles with hourly markings, you don't necessarily need to drink all that water if you're starting to not feel great. So I think the individual part of it is super important to keep in mind. Yeah, so these are carrying on a couple more practical tips to stay hydrated. I also personally like to prioritize a lot of hydrating foods in the summertime, with fruits and vegetables that have high water contents, and maybe being more mindful about my caffeine, like not having an iced coffee like out in the sun, or like going out into the full-blown afternoon sun like after a caffeinated beverage, to prevent a potential headache. And also, like, sometimes setting hydration reminders could be helpful. And next, I wanted to touch on the like hydrating foods and beverages that are super like great at just keeping us all hydrated. This was a table I came across in a research study that listed out the water content range for selected foods. This was pretty interesting to find for me. I think it's super understandable why like certain foods like strawberries, watermelon, lettuce, celery are like very high with water content. I was surprised to see that like some nuts like walnuts and peanuts, they have like 1%, but I thought this was pretty great to show like that there's differences between like apples and oranges and grapes, that water content versus like cantaloupe and strawberries. I did save this chart because I thought it'd be super helpful when like just keeping in mind the water content. Yeah. Another study I came across was about the powerful effects of herbal teas when it comes to hydration. Herbal teas have a lot of antioxidants, polyphenols, really great nutrients in them that support like our cellular homeostasis, as well as our hydration. And in this particular study, there were like 5 teas that were pointed out specifically for all of their health benefits, and I listed a few of them because these teas all like have similarities that are about like the antioxidants and polyphenol content in them that really support our overall health. And this is a great way too to like hydrate in the summer. They can be made and drank cool too, which is nice and refreshing. I'm also a really big smoothie person, and I was looking through some hydrating smoothie recipes, and was mindful about the like water content table with those high water content foods, and found a few smoothie recipes that look pretty great and also have really great hydrating ingredients in them. Yeah, and these are my sources. Thank you, everyone.
This was so great, Anika, and so really helpful. I was chugging my water bottle as you spoke. Do you mind going back to the smoothie recipes? Because maybe we can
Yeah.
just go through those a little bit more, which is really interesting that I noticed as you flip through that coconut water is the base for the smoothies, which I think is interesting because I feel like I usually use more of a dairy base for it, but it kind of makes sense because I know that coconut water is, supposed to be really hydrating, and I know it has a lot of, nutritional value. Also, not last year, but the year before, my teenage daughter got a very, very bad case of mono and could not eat or drink, and the pediatrician said just try to have her sip on coconut water throughout the day. And it was the one thing she could kind of tolerate. And I remember thinking that was kind of an interesting thing. So I like that it's being used in there. So will you share these, if you don't mind, share the slides, and we can actually, we can have them accompany the video.
Oh, sorry. Could you repeat that?
Sure. Do you mind if you want to share the slides with me? We can have them accompany the video that goes in our video library. So.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. I love putting coconut water in my smoothies. I actually used to put almond milk in my smoothies, but then I started learning about all of the like minerals and the electrolytes in coconut water, and it adds a really nice like flavor and like added taste too to the smoothies. Yeah.
what questions does everybody have? I'm wondering what other tips do people have for staying hydrated? I actually have one that I find really helpful. My sister-in-law actually taught me about infusing waters, and it's really, really great. I don't know if that's something that you know about, if you want to talk about it for a few minutes, but it really makes drinking water so much more palatable. So
Yeah. I one of my favorite water like infusion combos are strawberries and cucumbers. It's a very nice, like refreshing, and like subtly sweet way to like drink water. I think what I usually try to do is like make it like taste a little bit like sweeter with other fruits. Like in the past, I've also like put in a little bit of like blueberries into the water. I usually cut them in half so the flavor really comes out and it's super refreshing, and also like it just makes it super easy to drink water throughout the day.
yeah, my sister-in-law also was given me recipes. I know she takes fresh mint leaves and puts the mint in also. Um, and she's done that. And I know she's put different types of melon in also, like a chunk of watermelon. And she has a lot of fun with it. She has a bunch of kind of health issues where she really needs to stay hydrated, and so it's been kind of a lifesaver. She actually even sent me as a gift their special water bottles that you can buy that have almost like um, a little thing in the top. It looks like a tea strainer where you can put the fruit or vegetables in the top, and then you can kind of pull them out after they've infused. So I think that's a really fun one. You have a question in the chat though.
Oh,
Rachel, I have a question. Oh,
Sure. And Nancy has a question too after you um, answer Cynthia.
yeah. So yeah, I would say that all coconut waters are pretty much different. I usually go for the ones without any added sugar, and I'll check the label in the back when it says ingredients, and then it's easy to recognize if there's like added sugars in there. There's one brand called Harmless Harvest, which is pink, and that one I think is made from a special type, like a pink coconut water. That one's super natural. It is pretty sweet, but that's all natural sugar. But yeah, I'm usually a little bit mindful whenever I'm like looking at coconut waters and like looking at the ingredients.
And while you're on the subject, what exactly is the difference between coconut water, coconut milk, and then and coconut cream?
Yeah. Um, from my understanding, I believe that the coconut water is actually the water inside of the coconut, and then the coconut milk is the like meat of the coconut that is, I believe, like blended together to make that like the milky white consistency. And usually coconut milk has a lot of nutrients, really a lot of great vitamins too for you. Yeah. Learning that the 8 glasses of water a day is a myth and not really applicable to every individual is super interesting to me. So I think that it could definitely like be potentially beneficial if you tried more water, yeah, throughout the day.
because I mean, I'm sometimes that's all I drink is water. It's the kind of drink, I will have the iced tea, but I do drink unsweetened iced tea, and I do drink coffee.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't drink anything else. I can't drink anything else. It's too sweet for me. I'm already used to doing the sweet stuff that if I try it else, the sweetness, I can't drink it. It's too much.
Yeah,
So
I think
I do think I drink a lot of water. I guess I drink enough.
yeah, I think yeah, maybe also sometimes like in the past I would get headaches from drinking like a little bit too much coffee. So I kind of decreased that, realized that that was making me feel a little bit more dehydrated. And I've in the past switched over to like matcha to like help prevent like dehydrating uh headaches.
And do you think
I
in
see.
Nancy's
Okay.
case, yeah, do you think that it's worth varying, like having some coconut water, a day, again, to sort of mix up instead of just the pure water? Because I know you're saying that there's a lot in the coconut water that it can have a lot of nutritional benefits and be sort of extra hydrating, if that might be helpful for her to incorporate that.
Yeah, I think that'll be super helpful to incorporate, especially because coconut water has so many great electrolytes for you and minerals. Yeah.
Okay. I will look into that because I also do like doing smoothies, but I do it with the almond milk. So maybe I will try the coconut water.
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention there was a while where we were doing a lot of the coconut water. And for anyone who has a Costco membership, they actually sell it and they have the organic coconut water at Costco, and the price is really good on it. So if you
Okay.
are able to take advantage, it's, and you do end up drinking it regularly, it's worth taking a look into that. They sell a case of it.
Great. Thank you.
You have a question in the chat.
Is it better to have a water bottle or use filtration canisters for the fridge or just sink water? Or is coconut water better? Yeah, this is a really great question. I like this question. I would say that I usually stick to the water from like the Brita, like using a filtration. And I alternate a lot with coconut water, but I was actually told by my dentist recently to drink more tap water because tap water has like a really great level of fluoride in it that filtered water doesn't really have. So I really mixed it up with all three of them. I think all three have like great benefits to them.
And I was just doing a grocery order, and you may or may not know this. What is the difference between distilled water and purified water? I know that spring water is one that obviously comes naturally from the spring, but what is the difference between those? If you
I'm pretty sure that has to do with the like mineral content of the water. I think distilled has like the least amount of mineral content because I'm only guessing that because in school, actually, in my like laboratory courses, we all use distilled water for our like laboratory experiments because it'll have like the least effect on like all experiments. And I'm pretty sure purified water has like more mineral content in it.
and what about seltzer? Where does seltzer and club soda and kind of bubbly drinks, where do those come into play?
Yeah. I think seltzer and club soda water have just more carbon dioxide gas in it. Um, and I'm not really sure how it's made, but yeah, I drink a few seltzers. I love LaCroix. Those are great. I usually am a little bit mindful of the type of seltzer I'm having. Like if it's a very like sugary, poppy or like gut friendly beverage, I think it's like really great to like stay hydrated by some of those, but then sometimes you can find out that the ingredients may not be so friendly as people think they are.
I think that's a good point, that some of them are called seltzer or seem like they'd be healthy, but they're probably just versions of soda, maybe not as much sugar. But
Yeah.
what are other people's tips for getting your water down? If anyone else has any good suggestions or ideas. And I do think you have another question in the chat while people are thinking of those ideas.
Oh, yeah. So the question is, have you heard of anyone getting cramps right after drinking water, or what causes or how to avoid systemic cramps? Oh yeah, this is a good question. I've sometimes like in the past have gotten like a little bit of discomfort in my stomach from drinking water, like if it is a lot maybe, and I was super thirsty, and I did not have water like for a prolonged period of time before that. I've heard that like just when like somebody's waking up in the morning, how great and like helpful it could be to just like walk around and move a little bit and then like have a little bit of water. Um, yeah, I think the little bit of like movement just to like get your body up and going right before like consuming maybe a lot of water could be helpful. That's what I try to do in the mornings.
So what suggestions do other people have for getting water in there? Janet has her hand raised.
Yeah, sometimes I put lemon in my water, just squeeze some lemon juice in. It's pretty refreshing and it gives it a different flavor. But I'm always drinking water. Sometimes I feel like I drink too much, but I try to limit it, to like no more than 8 glasses. But I have to, like, especially when I walk outside, I have to have a water bottle with me in the summer. It
Mhm.
just gets so hot. But I also have a question because my husband, so he gulps his water down like really fast. He could drink 1 glass in like a second. And I read somewhere that a woman once got a stroke from doing that. Have you heard of anything like that? Because he thinks I'm crazy.
Um, no, I haven't heard of that, but I think I mean, I've just personally experienced when I drink it really fast, it kind of gives me like discomfort. Like it does sometimes make my stomach hurt a little bit. So I think, yeah, but I haven't heard of anything like that.
I only read it like it was a news article once. And, since then, every time he does it, I just cringe.
Mhm.
But that's the way he drinks. And I guess I can't stop him. I think it's better to sip it slowly, though. I don't know. Because I also would get discomfort if I gulped it like that.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah.
It's actually interesting you say that. Because I actually have a friend whose husband was very diligent about drinking his 8 glasses. He would drink them either as water or he would have his tea in the morning. And his view was, let me just get it out of the way so I'm done and I have it in my body. And so he would do that while he was home. And then, to be very graphic, he would then like go to the bathroom a bunch of times. And he's like, great, I've checked it off. And he actually went to a doctor who said that that is actually bad for you,
Oh,
who said
really?
that it's better for you, kind of what Anika was saying before, that it's actually better to spread the water throughout the day, that you actually can do a disservice to your body by flooding it with water and then sort of getting more dehydrated during the day, because it can put, according to what his doctor told him, can tax your kidneys to do that, to really kind of flood the water, and then your body wants water the rest of the day and sort of gets into dehydration mode. So his doctor very specifically said that it is. I mean, I think he didn't mention anything about getting a stroke, by chugging the water,
Yeah,
but the doctor did say that it is much better for you in terms of organ function and also the benefits of hydration to spread it out throughout the day.
that's good to know. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. I was always taught, my dad always taught us to have something hot first thing in the morning to get your digestive, because you're breaking a fast. Hence the word break fast, breakfast. Um, Most people, they would just have hot water or warm water with lime to get the digestive juices flowing. And you may find that you won't have the water cramping as much. So, I mean, that's it. I mean, I find that works best. And not to have your water so cold, because I've read areas where having water too cold could cause other issues in your body, and drinking too much water can cause issue issues as well. Like water, I don't know what they mean when they say water on the brain. I don't know how true that is, but I can imagine if you have too much water. If you're drinking too much water at one time, it would cause you some issues. But try the hot water or the warm water with some lime or lemon as the first thing in the morning and see how you fare with that.
my all the Chinese doctors, all of the Chinese ancient beliefs is that we should drink room temperature or hot water. ice water is actually not allowed, especially ice cube water is not allowed, especially for women during menstruation period. Growing up, I don't know if it's common knowledge for you, but yeah. So if you ever visited in Asian countries, chances are they don't offer you any ice cold water. Actually, the same in Europe. I just can't buy it. I think Americans are the only country that wants ice for everything.
And it's funny you would say that, Sandra, because
Yeah.
back in the day, Chinese restaurants, authentic Chinese restaurants, they will offer you green tea,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's always hot. They never offer you, the most they will offer you if it was cold was water.
Was room temperature, but they would
Right.
never give you anything with ice in it. And
Right.
if till today, I go to acupuncture, my Chinese doctor is still very diligent to tell me do not drink any ice water. So
You're
That's
right,
just-
Sandra. You're right, because I went to the dentist's office not too long ago, and of course, well, dentists perhaps more so, but all they had to offer us was a picture of room temperature or hot water.
yeah. I don't know where that came from. One theory is that because it matches your body temperature, so it doesn't give your body a shock. That's
Right.
where I heard that. Yeah, so the room temperature water, or if hot water is even better because our body temperature is a bit higher. So that's just, yeah, some Asian practice. If you notice, no ice water is offered in our restaurants.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then on the other hand, I read in a woman's magazine that, they had started introducing cold water because it allegedly you burn more fat because your body's trying to bring that temperature, that cold water down. So your body burns more, allegedly. Yeah. Something like
Right. So it's not for health reason, it's for
Correct.
losing weight.
correct.
If we're talking about like Chinese doctor, Chinese medicine, like old
Yeah,
folks
yeah.
or grandmoms, no cold water whatsoever
Right.
out. Yeah.
But cold water is so good.
Oh,
So the question in the chat is watermelon water good for us? I would say, yeah, it's super hydrating. Based on the table, we can go back to the table. Oh, oops, okay. Well, based on the table that was shown earlier, I believe watermelon was one of the top categories for the highest water content foods. So I would definitely think that could be great for like adding to water, making it sweeter and like more delicious to drink.
Do you mind, actually, are you able to go back to that chart? That was really helpful.
Let's see. Oh yes. Oh yeah, here. Yeah. Watermelon and strawberries. Yeah, great.
strawberries.
Yeah, that's surprising, right? You would
Yeah,
think it
that
would
is
be.
surprising. Oh my goodness.
Um,
Jan asked that question. Jan, you answered that question, answered your question about the cold water?
Yes, yes. I love cold water as was already mentioned, but you hear conflicting views. So, and I know I always drink a lot of cold water. It's just refreshing to me. So, but I hear, that it's not really good for you. And if you're diabetic, which I am not, but it's not good for people who are diabetic. So I just wanted to know really if that was a myth or what. So you did answer my question.
Wondering also, Anika, what about soups? And obviously that's not as appealing in the summer. But from what you're saying, it seems like soup really, especially given that the vegetables can be so hydrating, could be a good way to get hydration or hydrated.
Yeah. Oh, I think I see in the chat that Karen said that she wanted to say that if you use lemon or limes in water, they must be washed thoroughly because of bacteria. Yeah, that's super helpful to point out. I agree. Going back to soup. So yeah, I think that a lot of soups can be super hydrating, especially I would say like homemade ones with broth. I used to drink a lot of bone broth in the wintertime. I've heard and also seen a lot about bone broth, and it's like really great collagen levels or just collagen synthesis, having a lot of protein. But one thing I didn't know is that bone broth has a lot of sodium in it. And so I found that out after drinking it a little bit, I was just like really tasting all the salt. So I started like diluting it a little bit. And I think sometimes like that can help a soup when it comes to like the flavor, the sodium content, the hydration part of it, just like diluting the broth if it's just a little too strong or like too salty.
Can I ask you a question about water? Like, okay, I know that this mostly is about drinking water, ingesting water, but like, say you're taking a bath. Does somehow that putting in the water a little bit hydrate the largest organ, like the skin, and then keeps it? How is that?
That's a good question. I would assume that it has like some type of effect, maybe very minimal though, because I think I pulled up one of the statistics that said that our skin is made up of 30% of water. And water does like help the plumpness of it. I think it could help, but I'm not sure how much.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
What they mentioned about salts and how to retain water, I thought I would just share something, but it may not apply to us. Both my children and my husband were athletes, and they competed. Both my kids competed in college tennis. So what happens is that during summertime, when they had to compete outside, the coaches would actually give them salt pills in addition to electrolytes. So a lot of times drinking water alone is not enough. My son has had a heat stroke and came down playing tennis in summer Florida. So imagine heat is like 98 degrees for 2 hours. So he was carried down with cramps, and the on-site trainer also gave him electrolyte and salt pills. So I mean, it probably doesn't, I'm sure it doesn't apply to us. We don't do that extreme sports in extreme heat like that, but it just a tip to share. That's what in the sports area, what they do.
That's really interesting. It goes back to, I think, to what Anika was saying before about kind of mixing it up with the different types of water you're drinking and adding in some coconut water and stuff like that, that not just the pure water, but getting the minerals and the electrolytes also. It's a really good point.
Is there, back to the chart, I think somebody kind of mentioned it, but is there a reason why cucumbers is not mentioned in the list?
I'm not sure. I think,
Because I thought they were very hydrating.
yeah, I think they are. Yeah, I don't think this list is like that comprehensive. Maybe one reason why cucumbers are not mentioned is because like pickles is mentioned. I also know that like red bell peppers and like bell peppers are super, super hydrating, but I didn't see that on here either. Yeah, maybe I don't think this list is that comprehensive.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I did want to mention something. Somebody's about to mention something about dry mouth, because like one indication is like, oh, you're dehydrated. They see your lips are dry, chapped, and like sometimes people drink a lot of water and they still have dry, chapped lips. Like, what's that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've also struggled with dry mouth in the past too, and I've spoken to my dentist about this, and they've always recommended me drink more water because like increased water intake helps increase the production of saliva in your mouth, so that prevents the dry mouth from happening. But I'm not really sure about that. Yeah, it's interesting.
I know that I know it's from my dad, because my dad takes a lot of medications, including medications for prostate cancer, and he really, really struggles with dry mouth. So we've looked into it a lot. A lot of times it can be medication related. So, if that's something anyone on here is struggling with, it's worth talking to your doctor about and just, mentioning, because it is possible, that one of your medications, not that you necessarily change your medication, but you would then drinking water may not necessarily combat it. I can tell you that with my dad, we went onto Amazon and ordered, like if you type in dry mouth products, there are a lot of products. There's special mouthwashes you can use. And again, this would be if it's medication related. There were mouthwashes, special lozenges. What he actually found were that he liked the best. He tried them all. There were little strips that you put in your mouth, and you put it in his mouth like as he was falling asleep, because he would get a very bad dry mouth during the night, and it would sort of melt during the night. It was almost like those little Listerine strips, if anyone has used those. And he said that made a really big difference. And the other thing for him is very sour lemon hard candy made a big difference for him too. And I know that sounds kind of like simple, but it really did help him. So there are a lot of options, and you just have to kind of figure out which one worked. Again, in his case, it was medication related. He wasn't going to stop taking the medicine, but he did get some relief from it.
One thing I would like to add for electrolytes, coconut water and lime is excellent for that. It helps to build your electrolytes. I don't know how the two works together, but it is good for
Sounds delicious.
The combination you're saying.
the combination of
Okay,
coconut water and juice.
thank you.
Any other suggestions or tips? I know my sister-in-law has what you were saying, Anika, that water bottle that you mark off by the hour, and she really does stick to it. You know, she drinks throughout the hour and she kind of carries it around. She works from home, so it's easier for her to do. That's very helpful for her. I've also heard that you can put rubber bands on top of a water bottle, and then as you drink, you move them down, or move them up to measure how much you're drinking.
Okay. It's so interesting. Every time you go into the hospital, pretty much they always hook you up to, because you're dehydrated. I mean, I've never hardly seen anybody they don't. So I guess it's a big problem nationwide. People are not getting enough hydration because they're always hooking people up to some type of hydration as soon as you get into the hospital. Even if you're going in for one thing, a broken leg or whatever, it's like, yeah. It's still a big problem. Even though we know the sources, it's so hard to meet that which we think is required, unless something is blocking it. Could there be something that blocks? Could that be something that blocks the absorption of water?
I think some of the stuff that Anika mentioned before, right, like caffeine and sodium and things like that, right? It sounds like that sort of blocks, even if you're drinking it, your body from, I don't know if it's absorbing it or, I think that's what you said, right?
True.
It makes sense. I mean, it's surprising that how much water our bodies really do require. I remember a nurse telling me one time I was in the ER because I was having heart palpitations. I'm always in the ER for heart palpitations. But this one particular time, it was because I was dehydrated. And she explained to me, she said, by the time you're thirsty, the dehydration process has already started. You're already in the midst of dehydration. So they had to give me IVs to build up my electrolytes and everything else that occurred to me. And I had to admit, when I thought back over it, I realized, yeah, you really wasn't drinking that much water. You was drinking tea, you was drinking everything else, but you weren't drinking the stuff you needed to really hydrate yourself. It's interesting how your blood, just your blood alone, needs water. Your heart needs water so it can pump the blood and all that good stuff.
So since we're almost out of time, Anika, what would you say kind of the biggest takeaways are, for people who are joining today?
Yeah, of course. I think the biggest takeaways is ultimately like understanding that everybody's water needs is different. It really varies to an individual basis. So while it's like really important to like be mindful of guidelines, it's also like more important to be mindful of like our own individual bodies and how we feel with water. So it's okay to like branch off of like a suggested like 8 glasses of water a day and like really find out like what the good equilibrium point is for ourselves. I also think it was super interesting just to like see from this presentation that our hydration can affect so many other parts of our body, like our physical performance, cognitive performance, and even linked to like other types of health conditions such as UTIs or kidney stones. And it's really important as like a preventative means for just going about like daily life and also upcoming like health, to prevent like headaches and stuff.
That's great. That's a really, really great summary. So hopefully everyone will take these really important and valuable lessons about hydration and the really, really essential benefits of staying hydrated, and and make some small changes, because it sounds like those small changes can really, really add up in keeping you, kind of having your body function, and actually not just your body, but your mind also function as optimally as possible. So, Anika, thank you so much for doing this. You clearly put a lot of work, a lot of thought into this. It was really helpful. And really thank you to the group here. It ended up being very participatory and really, I love it when groups turn out that way and everyone shares their own expertise and suggestions and, and perspectives. So this was really, really wonderful. I know I found a bunch of takeaways. I'm going to go refill my water bottle because I'm almost done with it. But I'm not going to chug it all at once, but I will sip throughout the day. But thank you so much. It was really, really helpful as always. And thank you for being part of our community and sharing your knowledge and passions and interests with us. Everybody have a great day. Enjoy this beautiful weather.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing you all.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Hopefully see you all later.
Everybody have